I want to talk about guilt today. I don't think there's probably a person who doesn't struggle with that. And it's understandable. It's understandable. We all have things we wish we hadn't done. If we could go back in time and change everything, we'd do it. We would do it. I know with my own checkered past that there's so many things that it just, I could be absorbed in guilt every day. Absolutely absorbed. Paul says, forgetting those things which are behind us. For me, myself, I've dealt with those things that I don't go back thinking about them. I guard my thought life. But how do we deal with guilt? How do you deal with guilt on a daily basis? And do you understand that guilt is one of the major reasons for anxiety and depression, and finally leads us to mental and emotional illness, But of all of those things, probably the most horrific, disastrous effect of guilt is how it affects your relationship with God. I promise you that. 1 John tells us that if our heart condemns us, if we feel guilty, if our heart condemns us, God's greater than our heart and he knows all things. And then it says, if our heart condemns us not, then we have confidence toward God. With all the stuff you're working through with guilt present, it's hard to believe God's going to be there for you. I get that. I understand that. Hebrews 11:6, I believe it is, it says, without faith it's impossible to please God. Now listen to this part. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and here's the important part, and that he's a rewarder to those who earnestly seek him. Now listen to what it says. We know that Jeremiah 29:13, remember it, says that, and it's God speaking to you, if you seek me, you'll find me. If you seek for me with all your heart. And here it's telling us that without faith it's impossible to please God, and those who come to him. Do you hear it? Those who come wanting to experience his tangible presence, they're coming to him. It doesn't talk about coming to get him to do something, to provide something. And those are important things. I'm not telling you they're not. But those who come to him, to come into his tangible presence, must believe that he is. And I would suspect if you're watching this podcast, you're there. You already believe that. And that he is a rewarder to those who earnestly seek him. Did you hear it? And the problem is, if guilt's in our life, we don't think when we go to God, he's going to be there. He's going to provide for us. He's going to protect us. He feels distant to us, unapproachable. I get that. That's how I feel when I'm dealing with guilt. And dealing with guilt and getting rid of it is one of the most important things that we can have in our lives. In John 13, if you remember it, in John 13, Jesus has just, they've had what we call the Last Supper. And Jesus gets up and takes his clothes off and girds himself with a towel and begins to wash their feet. And they're aghast at this. This is the lowest position of a servant in the Jewish community. And comes to Peter, and Peter says, there's no way I'm going to let you do that. I'm not letting you wash my feet. And then listen to what Jesus says to Peter. Peter, if you don't let me do this, if I don't do this, you can have no part of me. Do you hear it? We're talking about this intimate relationship with God. That's what this is all about. That's what this whole seminar that I'm putting on this podcast is about. It's you stepping into God's world and becoming one with Him, God and you and Him, so that transformation, you're not the same. You're not the same. That your depression's gone, your anxiety's gone, that all of that's taken away, and you feel more loved than you ever imagined was possible. You feel joy, just happiness. You can't contain yourself. You feel peace beyond your imagination. That you're in circumstances maybe right now that there's no way someone could be at peace. But I'm telling you, with God's presence there, He can take all of that anxiety, that depression, that guilt away. You can actually live guilt-free. Absolutely live guilt-free. Now, Peter heard what Jesus said. If I don't wash you clean, take all of those failures and that guilt away, then you can have no part of me. You won't have this intimacy, this abiding relationship with me. And Peter understands it. He gets it. And he says, oh, Father, Jesus, don't just wash my feet. I've walked places I know you wouldn't have gone. Well, don't just wash my feet. I've touched things you wouldn't have touched, or washed my hands, and oh my goodness, I've thought things you wouldn't have thought. Wash my head. Wash me completely. Make me clean. Make me clean. Now, we've been talking about this intimacy and what causes it to take place. Do you remember? We're talking about the attitudes that Jesus had. Remember, He said, come to me, all of you who are weary, heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. There's some attitudes I have that I've always keep, and learn these attitudes. And He says the yoke is easy and the burden's light. I'll give you rest. I'll give you rest from the difficulty of this world. I'll give it to you. But you've got to have me wash you clean. But what are those attitudes we talked about? Remember, I talked about Jesus was always completely dependent upon His Father. Jesus was always completely surrendered. And Philippians tells us so much so that it was like He became a bond slave, gave up all His rights to just do whatever His Father wanted. So much so that Jesus at one point said, the things you see me do are the things I've seen the Father do. The things you hear me say are the things that I hear the Father say. That's where we want to be. That's where we want to be. And to do that, though, I know, let me back up for just a moment. I know when it comes to being completely dependent on Him all day long. So I'm not operating out of my own efforts and self-will and determination, not by might, not by power, but I'm not by my efforts again, just Him, that I walk in and out of that all day long, and the completely surrendered, so that I've given up my will. I don't have to have my way. I want His will to be done. And then for Him to be my first love, the first source that I look toward to make me feel needed and wanted and special and cared for and loved. I walk in and out of all three of those at different times all day long. So if you're doing that, if you've been following this and you're working toward this being a lifestyle in your relationship with God, it's about the intimacy with Him. It's not about a bunch of rules and regulations. And you're going to have times that you're not going to be completely dependent, and you'll sense and feel it, and you're not going to be completely surrendered. And He's not going to be your first love, and you sense and feel it. What do you sense and feel when we are back into that old man, old woman? You feel emotionally distraught, anxiety, depression. You're struggling with fears and anger. and you're just down on yourself. You're down and out at that point. Well, that's going to be there. And what I want to introduce to you, it's not really a heart motive, a heart attitude, but it is allowing Jesus to come and wash you clean. You know, like Peter, I've stepped in places. I've taken over. I wasn't dependent on you. I took over in that situation. And I wasn't surrendered to you. I wanted my will, and I was pushing for it. And that will wasn't surrendered to you. And oh my goodness, I was looking to other people to make me feel needed and wanted and special and cared for. And that's the reason I'm angry. That's the reason I've gotten wounded. So I need you, Jesus, to wash me clean. Now, I want you to listen to a verse in Titus. I believe it's Titus 3:5. It says, not by works of righteousness, which you've done, and I've done, but according to his mercy, he saves us. And then it says this, by the washing of regeneration and renewing of the Holy Spirit. Now, understand it is the Holy Spirit that brings the presence of Jesus into you. You remember that. And what Jesus wants to do is to come and wash you clean from all of the guilt, to make you without spot, without wrinkle, without blemish, that you'll be spotless, that all the guilt be gone. Now, this verse in Titus 3:5, it says, not by works of righteousness which you've done, but according to his mercy, he's saving you by the washing of regeneration and renewing of the Holy Spirit. Now, that phrase that says by the washing of regeneration, in the root of it is messianic cleansing. Now, who is the Messiah? Jesus is. Remember. And Jesus said, Peter, if you don't let me do this, wash you clean, you can have no part of me. So it is Jesus saying, God the Father saying, I'm sending the Holy Spirit who will bring the presence of Jesus, who will do a messianic cleansing inside of you from all the failures and all of the mess-ups that you have, that you've done, and you'll be washed clean. You'll be washed clean. And that word washing there means to renovate. Now, to renovate, think about that. If I'm going to renovate our house, that I'm coming in and I'm changing up everything. I may knock walls down and make it a larger area. And I may add trim and molding, and I may completely redo the lighting. I'm changing everything. I'm changing everything. Jesus wants to come inside of your brokenness and renovate who you are. To change absolutely every broken old thing about who you are. All the damaged parts that are there, so that when he's through, you'll be a new creature, a new man, a new woman, without spot, without wrinkle, without blemish. Now, the clean heart of faith, letting God do this, it is the act of allowing God to cleanse and wash your heart clean, and your thoughts and your feelings clean, so that you're now able to receive the expectancy, to sense and feel his tangible presence. Now, how do you do that? You remember in all of the attitudes I've asked you to come to God to say, cause my heart to rest in complete dependence. Well, it's that same sort of attitude. Jesus isn't asking you to clean yourself up. He didn't ask the disciples, well, here's a rag and a washcloth and here's a towel, wash yourself, wash your feet off. He didn't do that. He says, I'll come and clean you up. I know that you don't know what's in your heart, And remember that verse in 1 John that says, if our heart condemns us, God is greater than our heart and knows all things. He wants to come and clean up even your heart, so that now, when you seek him with all your heart, that you find him. Spend the time today. Spend the time. Come on, spend the time. And go and talk to him and ask him, Holy Spirit, come. Father, send the Holy Spirit, and Holy Spirit, come and bring the presence of Jesus. I've done so much today that I wish I hadn't done. And maybe it's just small stuff. I didn't take the time with you. I didn't come away. You weren't the important person to me. I had something else, another person I was looking to make me feel needed, wanted, special. I wasn't looking to you. They were the substitute. Father, come and wash me clean. And then just be still. Allow the Holy Spirit, and he'll wash you clean so that all the guilt is gone. And now, in that moment, you'll sense and feel the tangible presence of God. Now, never forget, this is so important. You're never alone. You're never without purpose or value. You're never unloved. You're who you are. Yeah, you haven't been made. You're not damaged goods. You're not poorly designed. You're who you are because of the artist who put you together. Everything you're going to need to do what he's called you to do is already there. Now go and spend the time. And it's time to get rid of the guilt. Go and spend the time. And ask God to send the Holy Spirit right now and to wash you clean. He won't let you down. He won't let you down.